Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. And the three of us are coming to Seattle. We're going to be out there on January 21st taping this show live. If you're in the area, come out and hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Dan Savage come out as a special guest buddy. He and Tim will do very blue talk about politics and sex and all sorts of stuff afterwards. And then we'll all hang together and meet one another and have fellowship. Oh, how I love fellowship and company and being with people.
Seattle is I think maybe biggest city in America. I've never really spent time in. I've been there, but I've not gone to the Pikes Peak Market. I've not gone to the Needle. We could just be tourists together.
Not Pikes Peak.
Whatever
Peak
it is, Pikes Peak
That's
in Colorado.
Springs.
That shows you how little I know about Seattle.
Yes.
It's not a swing
I'll take
state.
you to barcades. I will take you to Seattle is, I believe, the pioneer of the barcade, which is an
I don't want to go to a barcade.
With a bar in it.
I do.
You don't want to go and play 1970s era pinball machines?
I'm going to provide a list of tourist destinations I would like to go to, and then you guys can go to the barcade when I peel off for the gay bar.
Okay, well, I'm sure that there is a gay barcade we can go to.
Okay, now we're talking.
I don't know. Are there gay video games? Are there specifically arcade games that are just referred to as super gay? Because I got to say, I always looked at Tempest and thought, it's a little gay.
So I'm not familiar with that culture, but yes, not only are there gay video games, there's a specific brand of gay that says that they are a gamer, but they put the Y in, gamer, and they have little communities. I don't have a lot more info that I can provide. Sebastian, we have one gamer on the production side here.
We've got a gamer right here with us. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's going to be great. Go to thebulwark.com/nobs or click on the thing. It's right there when you hit all of the subscribes and likes for this and all the other things we do. Guys, Ron DeSantis is making his move. He did a big announcement this week about how he is going to take on all of the terrible vaccine people. I will just do this really quickly. He is impaneling a grand jury to investigate the mRNA shots and big pharma, capital B, capital P, I guess, for all of the terrible things that they've done in saving lives. He is going to investigate cardiac-related deaths tied to the vaccines. We'll talk about that in a minute because his quack surgeon general, Joseph Ledopo, has published an anonymous study that he did in which he doesn't reveal any of the important details of his methodology and blah, blah, blah. And he's also, Governor DeSantis...
I'm glad we have you to take us through that, and you're heavy with your Johns Hopkins background.
He's 1/8 the doctor. 1/8.
I'm 1/8, basically. I'm as much of a doctor as Joseph Ledopo is. And he's forming a public health integrity committee to oversee the medical establishment because, as Governor DeSantis says, we've reached the point, sadly, where anything coming from the CDC or NIH or FDA is not worth the paper it's printed on. Thoughts? Because I'm going to be honest, this sort of thing makes me angry. It makes me into an angry wolf.
Not you. I have a thought on this, which is that, I guess this is the play for DeSantis against Trump, right? The play for DeSantis is Trump was too accommodating of the public health community, made a bunch of bad decisions, shut things down, and Ron DeSantis knew better, and he kept Florida open, and that's why he's America's greatest governor, and that's why he should be president and Donald Trump shouldn't. And so I guess I'm not...
He had checkpoints along highways in Florida during COVID. Yes, Florida literally set up checkpoints and along highways to control access from people coming from the north who may have not had.
Yeah, well, so because other governors like Kristi Noem has taken sidelong shots at DeSantis for some of his early day activity, but now he's arguably the biggest branding exercise for him. The reason that he became popular and talked about as a potential presidential candidate is because he was bucking the trends on COVID, because he was bucking the public health community. And so I guess I'm just not that surprised to see him lean into it, although he is doing something that I'm not sure is strategically wise, which is DeSantis' whole pitch for the National Review crowd is, well, this is our fusion candidate, right? Like, this is a guy who can appeal to normies in a general election. And I don't know that becoming like a seriously intense anti-vaxxer is the path to normie town.
Oh,
Could be wrong.
No, Tim, you will tell Sarah, right? He's not anti-vax. He is just asking questions.
He's just asking questions.
That's why he's not prosecuting the big pharma. He's just impaneling a grand jury. He's not saying that we can't, that he would disband the CDC. He's simply setting up an oversight panel so we can all have a discussion.
Well,
and
I don't want
the
to.
anti-antis are all going to look at this and say, well, he doesn't really mean any of it.
I would ask your just generous discretion to not start another podcast by immediately getting into the meta conversation about how the anti-antis are processing their support of Ron DeSantis in the face of his obvious MAGA-ness. So I have a couple of other thoughts about Ron DeSantis's move. It's funny when I saw the press conference yesterday because over the past few days from Oakland, I've been having some, let's just call them very pleasant conversations with people that work for an organization called Turning Point USA. And that's because I would like to attend the Turning Point USA conference happening this coming weekend. I think I've gotten there. I think I've finally gotten them
fire
to
the t-shirt cannon.
I was hoping to. I told them I'd be a good boy. I've been trying to get a credential. You'd think that they don't want to silence people. It's a big part of their messaging over there, not canceling and silencing people. So I hope that I've got that way. I don't have a final decision yet, but people will know by next week's podcast because I'll give a recap if I am able to go. But it was interesting to see Ron DeSantis' press conference yesterday because during one of those conversations, I was just having a casual, just kind of temp check with one of the gents about kind of the DeSantis Trump thing. And the feedback was that a major animating thing among the Turning Point MAGA crowd is COVID still, and that this is DeSantis's big position. So to Sarah's point, like this is obviously a political and positioning move. And so I was interested to see the press conference yesterday because it's very blatant, right? Like it's not even at all subtle, right? Like that this is a Trump. This is an attempt to get to the other side of Trump, not to care about what the meaningless National Review people think, but to solidify the MAGA crowd, the people that will be at Turning Point USA events, because this is something that they are animated by, and the other folks will just figure out a way to get on board and justify it. And so I think that like from a political standpoint, there's no doubt that is what's happening here. And so, I think that we can take that as a data point about what Ron DeSantis' plans are. From then a strategic point and a public health point about the merits of this, I think I'm not sure he needs to do this. Maybe he really believes it. I don't know. Maybe Joseph Ladopo has gotten in his head and like he thinks that he's the one person that sees this thing clearly. Things are kind of going DeSantis's way right now. Like, why inject into the cycle this like pretty clear anti-vaxxer for how any normal people will process it? The vaccine was a magic. It was life-saving. It changed our whole society. Thousands upon thousands of people are alive because of the vaccine. The reason why America is doing so well and China is doing so poorly right now is because China's vaccine is a piece of shit and our vaccine actually worked. It should be a moment of celebration of the free market system, a celebration of American ingenuity. And I think this shows just horrible judgment. I think it will not appeal at all in the general election, but I think it also is a sign of where the party is going, right? That DeSantis, that like you could imagine a situation where, maybe somebody took a more libertarian bent, said, Trump listened to Fauci too much, too many lockdowns, but like, hey, the free market is great, the vaccines are great, America is great, woo woo woo, Hulk Hogan riding a velociraptor. That's not what this is. Like, this is populist bullshit.
It's I would say this is, the Bulwark, we crushed Donald Trump all day, every day throughout the pandemic, with the exception of Operation Warp Speed. Before it produced a vaccine, we ran pieces at thebulwark.com saying that the Operation Warp Speed, the way it was constructed by bringing in people from the industry and not just making it researchers and academics, was well constructed and was likely to lead to a good outcome. This is one of the, there are a handful of things that the Trump administration was basically right on. Banning TikTok is another one, even though they didn't go through with it. This is one of the few things that he got right. We have a study out this week by the Commonwealth Institute suggesting that the vaccines in the U.S. saved a little bit more than 3 million American lives. And the idea that Ron DeSantis is going to be out there when this is not, and I'm sorry, I'm filibustering Sarah. This is not a dead issue. This is a live issue. 450 people are dying from COVID every day. Still, every day. And the vast majority of them are people who have refused to get vaccinated.
Okay, so I'm looking at this report from the Scientific American. It says 335.
Well, I've been looking at the daily death tables, and our rolling 7-day average is about 450 to 470, 480.
Okay.
Okay.
And these are daily deaths we're talking about.
Daily deaths.
Yeah.
Daily deaths. And it's almost entirely among the unvaccinated population. If you have the full spectrum vaccine with the boosters,
not quite right, actually.
It's not.
Old people. Old vaccinated people are also a big part of that number.
Old people, but old people who've been vaccinated and boosted are still a very, very small percentage. Your outcomes, your case fatality rate, regardless of age, are much, much lower if you are vaccinated and boosted versus unvaxxed.
By percentage, but because so many people are vaccinated, I just read something about this. But because so many people are vaccinated, like in raw numbers, there actually is a significant percentage of people who are vaccinated who are dying because so many old people got vaccinated, thank God, and some old people. So in raw numbers, there still are, but by a percentage, you're right, of course.
And so this is a thing which Ron DeSantis cannot possibly believe. Ron DeSantis' wife had breast cancer. She had to undergo surgery. She underwent long treatments. If Ron DeSantis truly believes that nothing which comes out of the CDC and the NIH and the FDA is, quote, worth the paper it's printed on, then what was he basing his medical decisions upon over, he and his wife over her fight with cancer? And thank God she's cancer-free now. She beat cancer, which is great. But this suggests to me that Ron DeSantis does not believe that these things are not worth the paper that they're printed on, and that this is, like so much else of his administration, it's performative governance, which is terrifying, right? This is the Stop Woke Act, which was his attempt to strike down, the evil CRT, has been basically gutted by the courts. The Disney, stripping Disney of its Reedy Creek special privileges, that is now being unwound in the Florida legislature. And the climb down excuses, oh, well, now that Bob Chapek is gone and Bob Iger is back as CEO, this was really about the CEO. It wasn't really about the company itself, which is an insane position. All of these things, nobody's going to be indicted by the grand jury in Florida, right? Nobody's going to jail because of this. And it's purely performative, and it's disgusting and evil. Too far? Too much?
No. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I guess here's the thing. There is a sort of responsible... The CDC does go overboard sometimes. Like, I have been critical of the CDC in the past for lots of their recommendations that are far too conservative and that are around... like women and drinking or whatever, like WHO, a lot of these public health communities, they can go too far, and they can make recommendations that like sensible people can say, I understand in a perfect world, we'd all be eating like all these vegetables and like we'd never drink and all of this stuff. But like when it turns into legislation that impacts people's lives, we should be pretty light on how much we're like demanding that people do. This is just my conservative libertarian instincts, seriously. But like
the dental dam recommendations by the CDC go a little too far for you.
I do. We will not. This is not. We're not with Dan Savage yet. And when we are, I won't entertain these conversations either. No, but like we're not. We don't have like mandatory vegetables. Like vegetables are good for us. Like smoking is bad for us. People and will kill us. And but the idea that anyway. I just think that there is a way to. And I think that DeSantis could lean on the fact that he said, like, we want to keep things open. But going down this rabbit hole on the sort of the anti-vax side to outflank Trump puts him in, and I'm sort of surprised he's doing it because I feel like there was a real lesson to be learned from this last election, which is that people are putting a pretty high premium on like normie good governmenting and a pretty low premium on like being a weirdo anti-vaxxer extremist. And so I understand Tim's point, I think, is correct, where he's trying to like, he's got to figure out how to separate Trump from his voters, right? And so he's trying to outflank him here. I just think it's actually kind of a dangerous play for him because I don't think these are harder to walk back from. Lots of people, like, it's just the science isn't, he's wrong on the science of the vaccines are good. Like the idea of like the vaccines are bad as a proposition is very silly.
Well, but put a finer point on your argument though. Just real quick, JV. Yeah, just like because the CDC because there are legitimate criticisms of some of the CDC recommendations, because like the FDA, like there are legitimate, normal, smart, free market, even center left like criticisms of the FDA approval process, or even public health criticisms of it, right? Like they say that they're too conservative, holding things back.
Yeah, we criticized this over booster rollout. Remember, there was a huge criticism of the FDA over the approval of boosters, and it was too slow.
Same with the monkeypox vaccine. There were fair criticisms that were happening, right? That they were being too cautious. This was approved in Europe, and it's like this thing was spreading very quickly. Like, why not get it under control? Quicker than they did. They ended up approving it decently quick, but there were fair criticisms. So to the point though is that you could do the soapbox,
right?
Him in Florida campaign of like, oh, these CDC, these elite, like, pencil pushers want to tell us what to do, and their recommendations were wrong, and they were overly, their mask recommendations like didn't meet what the actual science was, and we should have more access to medicines, right? Like there are plenty of like legitimate criticisms. Like, so to do this is just like wildly irresponsible and madness, and it's a specific effort to like reach the Candace Owens crowd. It's like him saying, I don't want these legitimate criticisms of Trump's FDA or CDC. I'm going to jump over those, and those are kind of implicit. And my explicit criticism is going to be, how do I get to Candace Owens's voters, right? Who are anti-vax and who are unhappy with Trump over the vax. And like, that is what's so gross about this, really.
So let me throw two things at you guys. One with why it will work, and one with why it won't. And the reason it could work is because, again, all of this is phrased in just asking questions. So Lodopo, who puts out a statement yesterday as his unbelievably irresponsible study is being picked apart, and he says, I love the discussion that we've stimulated. Isn't it great when we discuss science transparently instead of trying to cancel one another? This fucking guy. And that's, it's like, my study is junk science. Well, but look at the great conversation we've stimulated, right? And this is what DeSantis will do. I was just asking questions, aren't we supposed to? We don't want to cancel each other just for asking questions. Rah, 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 rah. So that's why it could work. But the reason it could not work is because, again, DeSantis doesn't have the courage of his own convictions. He is not doing all of his medicine with ivermectin and pills, right? Like he got vaccinated. This is why he refused to answer the question about whether or not he was vaccinated. His wife underwent cancer treatment, presumably with the best oncologists and medical teams that exist in Florida. And so it is like the Marlboro Man not smoking cigarettes because he knows that they're bad for you, but going around, taking a drag with his lariat and posing for pictures and doing the advertising. And don't voters smell that? Or are they such rubes, such idiot bubbas that they can't even understand that they're getting pandered to?
That was definitely a question for you, Sarah. Any question about whether the voters are rubes? I think you're the go-to.
Look, I think that this plays in. I mean, and like this is the thing. Not all the voters, not all Republican voters, but the folks who are at Turning Point USA, the folks for whom fighting is the highest level prerequisite beyond, any actual policy position. Right? There's a decent chunk of those people who now represent the base of the Republican Party. And that's who he's trying to. But look, but this is why I think it's a gamble. Is because I actually think for a really big chunk of normies, they think the vaccines were good. Although, I mean, here is, I guess the piece that I would offer as why I'm not sure this is so risky for DeSantis is in retrospect, the public health community doesn't look great, right? Like everyone was wearing cloth masks. And for all this time, and it's hard to not sort of go back and judge these things and think, well, this was stupid. For a year, we were all wearing these cloth masks that offered basically no protection. We were making kids wear them. The kids being kept out of schools. Like there is going to be story after story after story about the mental health and learning fallout from the kids not being in schools. I think that there's a reason he wants to circle around I was right about this and the public health community was wrong. And part of it is and also, it's not, I think a lot of reasonable people can say, look, they said that the vaccine was going to solve this in a lot of ways. And they did get a little oversold in the beginning. It turns out you needed a ton of boosters and then you were still going to get COVID. At the end of the day, it was not going to keep you from getting COVID. It was going to help keep you from dying, especially if you were under the age of 65.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess I'm going to have to disagree on whether I think that is a working message when it comes to 2020. And again, maybe in the primary, I want to set aside the primary. I think we all agree that this is a good play, just practically speaking, for the primary voter.
Yeah.
It's going to work. Primary voter cares about this. It's an easy wedge with Trump. Okay, so let's set that aside. And the other element about just this whole COVID debate in the public sphere and the narrative around COVID and what was right and what was wrong. I think everybody has real things that we wish we'd have done better. The perfect, matched against the perfect, we didn't do great. Matched against China, we're doing pretty good. Matched against letting 3 million more people die, we're doing pretty good. Matched against Florida, weirdly having a spike in the COVID deaths after the vaccine became available, I think we're doing pretty good compared to that. States where people got vaccinated. I don't know so what we're in November, we're in December of 2022. So 20 months from now in September of 2024, when some people are getting their COVID fall booster and some people are getting their flu booster, but that's just our new reality. Is this going to be work? Right? Are people really going to want to be hear Ron DeSantis in the debates in September of 2024 be I was right and Joe Biden was wrong. We shouldn't have masked the kids. We shouldn't have had so many vaccine boosters. I don't know. I think most people are going to be kind of dude, I don't.
Well, no, because this will be a test of, and I think this is one of the things we really don't know about Ron DeSantis, right? Is what quality of politician is he? Is he good at this? Yeah. And it could be that he's actually, as I suspect, I was just on the Guardian's podcast and they were like, what's your prediction for 2023? Something that you think would surprise people. And I was like, Ron DeSantis, totally going to fall apart. He's not going to be he won't be the main challenger to Trump. And I think part of that is because I think looking at him, I'm not sure that he's particularly good at this. But let's say he was. Let's just take the affirmative case. Ron DeSantis is a relatively good politician. He's not arguing in the general election to normie voters that, he's not talking about you shouldn't vaccinate people, whatever. What he's saying is he's lamenting the Democrats' entire approach to education, including how they kept our kids out of schools and look at the fallout that we're dealing with. And he sounds concerned about he'll say, I have a young family, and watching the mental health struggles of these kids because of the Democrats' overzealous big government policies. We cannot have people like that running our government. That's what he'll do. And for the normies, that'll play a little bit. It played for Youngkin. That's how I think it'll work.
Midterms. I just think that the salience of this is by the week is I think this is a high salience issue for Bethany Mandel and
right.
The 22 people that moved to Florida, because they were spending too much time reading top conservatives on Twitter. But I think this is increasingly a low salience issue for other people. So he might turn out to come off like a crazy person, a crazy obsessive person about this. But you're right. In theory, sure, it could be one data point, but that's not what he's doing right now.
But I don't think it's his whole campaign. Yeah, I agree with you on the reduce. Like, we are living with COVID in a way now that is totally different, and where, like, assuming that nobody starts like having our kids back out of school, and there's not like constant remasking policies.
10% of society, COVID made them go crazy. And like half of those people like moved to Florida and are still talking about myocarditis and the ivermectin, like Ron DeSantis. And 5% of those people are still weirdly masking in like outside at the park for some reason. And neither of those I don't think are winning political strategies for the normies. But I do think that it's working. It probably is working for him with the TPUSA crowd.
Let's hope so. So this leads us into the 2024 perspective polling. We have 4 polls out over the last week or so. They are DeSantis plus 20, DeSantis plus 14, DeSantis plus 5, and DeSantis plus 2. These polls are varying quality.
The head-to-head over Trump.
The head-to-head.
These are head-to-head, right? These are head-to-head with Trump.
Oh, head-to-head with Trump.
Yeah. And varying quality. You look at the polling for the last month, and it's literally all over the map. Some of them you'll have Trump plus 36. Some you'll have DeSantis plus 20. It is hard for me to get a handle on all this. But I guess what I was trying to drive at when I asked about the phony stuff was that, like, Republican voters smelled the phony on Ted Cruz, right? Mm-hmm. They smelled the phony on Marco Rubio. Will they smell that with DeSantis? Or will they accept him as authentic in the way that they accepted Trump, right? I mean, Trump was accepted as an authentic, whatever he is, maybe an authentic phony, but like, you know, as being real. And authenticity is the coin of the realm. And so which way does DeSantis break, and what do you think about these numbers?
I think the numbers are well, the short-term impact of the numbers is I think he's obviously running, right? And I don't think that this was obvious a month ago, right? That he was going to run, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe he decided 2 years ago, but I think at least there were some doubts about whether or not that it was smart for him to run. And I think clearly, if he's winning head-to-head polls and he's trying to outflank Trump on anti-vax bullshit, then like then all signs point to him running. So I think that's the short-term impact. Whether he wears well, I don't know. I guess I would disagree with that. I don't think that he will totally fall apart in 2023. I think that he can at least spend the first half of the year doing what he knows how to do. Stay on Fox, criticize the elite media, you know, like kind of like duck and dive around the craziest Trump stuff. Like eventually that will have to come to a head. And whether he survives that, I think is a totally open question. But I think that he looks about as strong as anybody has. I think I would go so far as to say, I'm trying to think back to 2016. I think anybody as strong as anybody has looked ever against Trump in the head-to-head. I don't, from the moment that Trump passed us, I guess there was a brief moment in the fall of 2015 when it looked like when our campaign was tanking and it looked like Rubio was kind of consolidating and was like going up in the polls, like before the, kind of debates hit where he, got turned into little Marco. So I think maybe that is probably the most akin to this. Like in that moment in the fall, I think you would have thought it's a 50-50 coin flip, probably lean Rubio right now of 2015. And that's probably where we're at on Trump now. So he's about as weak as he's ever been in one of these situations. Yeah.
So I want to tag on to the Trump is right now in this moment extremely weak. I do think that I'm very interested in what the dynamics look like once these indictments come down. Like the January 6th committee is going to do a referral on Trump to DOJ, almost certainly. Georgia, that the investigation there is almost certainly going to manifest an indictment. And then the Mar-a-Lago documents that were with the special counsel are also almost certainly going to result in an indictment. And so this can create this, one of two things can happen. Because I want to say that the midterms changed everything. To Tim's point about, I said DeSantis wasn't going to run. Like I did a whole thread on why I didn't think DeSantis was going to run before the election. And I don't think that anymore because of how weak Trump is, right? And just the total diminishment of Trump's strength, not just by both by the complete and total loss, and also because of how wobbly the party's gotten now, because it is so uneven with the MAGA fact. Like, everybody who's in leadership positions is facing challenges, they are going into their new role, or this much, much weaker than they would have thought. Rana is much weaker. McCarthy is much weaker. McConnell is much weaker. They are fielding challenges from within their ranks or with crazier ranks. And so I just think that with Trump as weak as he is, it's enticing not just Ron DeSantis. I think it's going to entice a lot of people into the field. I think we're going to end up actually with a big crowded field. My big thing is I'm not sure that DeSantis sustains. I'm not sure if DeSantis under scrutiny and also now as the front runner, as the perceived front runner out of the gate, everybody's going to attack him. Right. And I just think the dynamics of the shadow primary that's going to happen in 23 are super interesting and wildly unpredictable. Maybe everyone's just attacking DeSantis and not Trump. And they weirdly line up with Trump because he's being attacked unfairly by the deep state. And it actually helps Trump sort of regain kind of a foothold and some power from which to attack. Or Trump has done, and I'll tell you, in the focus groups, the polling doesn't surprise me. The focus groups, I've done several since the election. I've just been sort of collecting this evidence, but I'll share because I want to segment, just an inside thought here, but I want to segment these groups out better than we're doing. So right now we're just doing Trump 2016, Trump 2020 voters. And I've only found one person who's excited that Trump is running again in 2024. The rest of them are like, and they're excited about DeSantis. Like, DeSantis is the number one name. Somebody in one of the Georgia groups talked about how there's already DeSantis 24 lawn signs in her neighborhood. Like, she saw a lawn sign. And so, there's no doubt he is in this position of strength in this moment. But I want to know if I segmented by people who think about Trump very favorably versus people who think about him just like, okay. Right.
I could put in a focus group request. Trump 2016 primary voters.
Trump 2016 primary voters. Like, are they still with him or are they migrating away? Yeah. Like, those are unanswered questions. I don't think there's been, like, these pollings are garbage. Like, they're reflecting, I think, a shift in overall sentiment, which I'm seeing too in the focus groups, but I don't think they give us a good sense of what proportion of the MAGA base remains intact for Trump. And I just think that's like a key piece of information that we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that at this point, head-to-head polls with Trump and DeSantis are really Trump or somebody else. Like, DeSantis is just the stand-in for not Trump, don't you think?
No, I don't think that.
No, you don't think that?
I don't.
No, I think DeSantis has emerged as the Trump without the baggage, the Trump with brains. The person who is like Trump, but not have all the bad stuff. Right?
That's what Trump Pence head-to-head would be Trump plus 50.
Yeah, totally.
It's close to that. There is a Trump-Pence head-to-head. Yeah. But Pence is, of course, is an unperson.
Yeah, sure.
So, right.
Wait, all right.
Wait, can I just say one last thing on this point about just 2023? Because I've been thinking a lot about it. I will say, again, on the midterms changed everything. I do think it's an opportunity. There's a lot of people are feeling a little dejected because of all the losing, right? And so there's this weird moment where I actually think suddenly anything's possible again. I'm going to just be like optimistic Sarah for a little bit. And I'm not saying like Larry Hogan 2024 like remains like a huge thing, but like Chris Sununu, I've seen like him talk about getting in. Now he is an interesting person. He's in our kind of anti-Trump vein, although he's played nice with him fine. And he supported Baldock, I think horribly as a horrible judgment call, but he did. But that guy has an early primary state advantage. And in that region, quite a lot of name recognition. And like maybe is quite a good politician. Like I am now in my mode of, I think lots of people should run. I think that I think there's specific appetite for DeSantis, but I think it's shallow. And I think that people could move to somebody else, even somebody kind of normie, because they're sick of losing. And one of the things these focus groups keep saying is like, we got to win. We need somebody who can win. And right now they think that's DeSantis, but that may not hold up. He may be too polarizing.
Yeah.
Although the head-to-head between DeSantis, the Biden head-to-heads were Trump losing to Biden by 7 points, DeSantis beating Biden by 7 points.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the polls. I've seen other things showing it. Basically a coin flip with DeSantis Biden, but it's basically a coin flip if it's DeSantis Trump or Trump Biden. Anyway, I mean, maybe we're niggling around the edges. All right, enough of that. The Twitter files, God help us, are still happening. We have a great piece on thebulwark.com today by Kathy Young about this, and Kathy, in her preternaturally even-handed way, tries to see both sides of it. And comes away thinking like, geez, these two things are not like are not like the other. I just want to preface this by saying I have seen a lot of people on the left who are engaging in some revisionist history in which they make the Twitter as it existed 12 months ago into this lovely golden age, which Elon Musk has ruined. And Twitter has been a doomsday machine for American society from the beginning. It was terrible under the old regime.
It was really cute right in the beginning when we just thought it was we were telling our little friends where we were. Like that very first
Maybe it was
summer
cute when there was 100,000
like, hey, I'm
people
at Cloud 9, everybody, come hang out. And like, and it would be like a blurry picture of your one friend making out with a stranger, and the other friends could get to see it live. I don't know. That was great for like
maybe that
8
was
weeks.
Okay.
It was like 8-week golden era in 2007.
But it's been
summer.
terrible for forever, and everybody should be off of Twitter. And if you are a liberal who needs to tell yourself that Twitter is now uniquely bad in order to get off of it, I'm not going to begrudge you that. But you should get off of it anyway, and you should not get onto TikTok. You go to Post News or go to Reddit or go to Substack. You don't need Twitter in your life. There, I said it.
Stay on Twitter. Twitter's great. Twitter's fine.
I need Twitter in my life. I'm addicted, and I don't care. I'm an addict, and it's fine. I'm like the lady that they interview who's 102, smoking Marlboros on her front porch. And the local paper comes to talk to her, and they're like, "What's the key to your life success?" She's like, "I knew these things are supposed to kill me, but I've been doing a pack a day ever since I was 18." And that's going to be me with Twitter. I'm going to be doing 12 tweets a day.
You're already on TikTok. You might as well just go all in with the Chi-Coms.
I am on Twitter. I am on TikTok. I don't care. You can have my data. I am concerned about the TikTok algorithm. That's another topic. Here's my thing on the latest, since we last spoke of the Twitter files. The most recent little batch has been about the Trump takedown, taking Trump off of Twitter. And I just like, once again, I just want to say to the people, to my friend Barry Weiss and Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi and all these people, we agree. We kind of agree. Not everybody. JVL was for the takedown of Trump off Twitter. I was kind of against. I think we had mixed views on the Bulwark. I think it was totally kind of ad hoc and crazy for them to take Trump down, but leave Ayatollah Khomeini up there. Like, they didn't have any clear policies. Like, agree. What I don't understand is the subtext of all of of the PR that these guys are putting out for Elon, is that like this was all like a horrible scandal that was an attempt to help the Democratic Party, and they were like
violated international law.
They were
there are Geneva Accords written about how the process is supposed to go, and a private company can't do anything. I mean, it's not like the process that we have in place now under the new regime for keeping Alex Jones off of Twitter, right? That is a well thought out, rigorous process, which is totally transparent, and everybody.
Yeah. Like this, or Elon Jet, he just cut up like some guy has an account, some guy's account where he follows Elon's Jet, and like that just got canceled. So it's like, okay, like concur. Like they didn't have clear policies, but they're a private company. They could kind of do what they want. I think they were flawed humans trying to make judgment calls. Trump did just
it's always been a shit show
attack on
from
the
beginning.
Capitol. Yeah, Trump did just spur an attack on the Capitol. So it's kind of like, and where we are today, like usually when you have these sorts of things, it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to review all this so we learn more for the future. Like that's okay. Maybe we need a blue ribbon commission to study this stuff. But like Jack has already said that this was wrong. Jack sold the platform to Elon. Elon's running it in his own fucked up way. Like, shouldn't we be investigating Elon? Like, who? Like, what? what do you guys want? I still don't understand what they want. I think they just
I
want to
know.
flog the
I
libs
know.
in the public square.
Attention is what
Yeah,
they
want
want.
Attention. Okay.
And
So anyway,
and
that's my
money.
issue
Then when you
with
get
it.
close
I'm
to
just
Elon, because when you get close to Elon, you get money.
Okay.
This is.
But they also, I've talked to JVL about this, but it's also about providing, I think, their audiences with the sense that they were justified to tolerate the last 7 years of what's happening with all the Trump stuff, because the left is doing these things, right? Like there is this, right. This is the safe space. Column. Yeah, this is the safe Hunter. Space for people. And it's how they it's how they both sides, it's how they create the illusion for themselves that like, well, of course, yeah, I mean, Trump is bad. I don't like Trump. But like, look at this. Look at what the left is doing. Look at what they're doing on Twitter. They're shadow banning people.
Look what happened to Charlie Kirk when he was devisibilified, right? Or had his visibility reduced on Twitter. He just disappeared. He was unable to get his viewpoint across in any forum anywhere in America, and he went out of business.
Well, Charlie, I don't know if you're listening, but JVL might be sounding sarcastic then, but I do. I'm not being sarcastic, and I do agree with your plight, and I would like to be credentialed for the Turning Point USA Festival this weekend in Phoenix.
It is, but here's what really grinds my gears here is the self-righteousness of the people who are presenting the Twitter files in the most slanted and like the people who are like, just asking questions, good faith, are the manner in which the entire thing is being conducted is like a parody, and they're all terrible. They're all terrible.
Haven't released. I mean, Matt Taibbi in the very first thread said, "Oh, by the way, also we have evidence that the Trump White House requested things be taken down." But that's the only note of it that we've had. Still, there have been there have been hundreds of tweets across a dozen threads since then by multiple different characters, and they're all like, getting new followers off of this, and nobody's followed up on like even that one point. They're not even trying. Like you would think that if they were that even if it was a PR attempt for Elon, but they were like trying to seem even-handed, they might throw a few bones and be like, "Ooh, and here's one thing that we uncovered they did that hurt conservatives," or here's one person, like I made a joke on Twitter, justice for the Krasensteins. Like how have we found the internal emails between Yoel Roth about why the liberal Krasenstein brothers were banned for Twitter? Like just throw them in the mix just to kind of pretend.
Those guys. What happened to those guys?
They got banned from Twitter. They got actually deplatformed. They live in Miami now. I sent that tweet out as a joke, and the Krasenstein's wife DM'd me, and one of the Krasenstein's brothers messaged me on LinkedIn, letting me know that they would like to tell me the backstory of how they got deplatformed. And my point is, I don't care. It was Jack's judgment call. You guys had other things, like whatever. I'm sorry. Anyway, but they're not even trying to do that. It's just total supplication to like the Elon narrative.
Yeah, but also here's the thing. So I just think people should care less about Twitter in general. Like I think we should. I still want to tweet, but I just like all the machinations around Twitter. Like I don't know. Donald Trump was texting with the whole Fox News primetime lineup about the coup, and they were like, I just like the extent to which that presidents like Donald Trump has his own media apparatus, which he totally controlled, and it was like a major cable channel, and so these like and I also am just Noah Smith had this thread on Twitter that I sort of thought was good-ish in that, or I guess it's a little how I've been thinking about it. The left. Look, Jack was probably more sympathetic to the left when he was running Twitter. Elon is clearly Elon wants it to be a platform that right wingers use, right?
Get her.
Right? Yeah. No, he wants it to be. And so he's in charge now, and he's going to make it a place in which conservatives are more likely to thrive than they were under the previous regime. And it's up to us. I don't know if you read Popat, left Twitter, which I'm super disappointed about. Because I liked his tweets and I thought he was good.
It's good for America that Ken White has left Twitter. Yes.
So
I love Ken White. I'm saying I think Ken is great.
And look, he can, and that's what people will do. Like either an alternative will spring up in the face of Elon's what is just like an incredibly unbelievable mismanagement of this product, and like people will leave and start a competitor that is for journalists and others where people feel like they're on a responsible platform. Either that'll happen or people will stay on Twitter and they will accept like Elon Musk's like insane MAGA regime. But like it is his, and like this is what's happening.
One final thought for me on this is concerning, and I put it in the newsletter, but the red line for me, and here is where I get really worried, is I don't know, did you see Tucker last night, Sarah? The newsletter came out as we were speaking, so I wouldn't expect that you would have read it, though I would expect you would have read it had you had the chance, because you read my material, unlike some other materials. But I guess newsletters are, I know, key reading for you. But Tucker last night at the end of it, he did a long kind of Russia conspiracy rant about all of the unknown things we don't know about, like who really did the Nord Stream pipeline damage, and who really hacked the DNC and all this. And he's like, well, who probably might know now is Elon Musk, because a lot of the people who are involved in these things DM each other on Twitter, and now we have the largest trove of important data ever in the history of man in the hands of one private person, Elon Musk, and I would like for Elon to start releasing some of that information. So, like, Tucker very explicitly called for Elon to leak people's private DMs, including journalist source DMs. I don't think that he will do that, because I think that would be an extinction level event for the site, probably. But anyway, I think that, well, I generally concur with you and Noah and Tom's views of how to handle Twitter and how to care about it via versus Pope hats. I do think that potentially we could have some pretty red-liney type behavior in front of us.
I hope he does do it, because anybody who is conducting sensitive stuff over Twitter DM in the assumption that this for-profit company would protect their privacy for forever was basically playing with matches from the beginning.
You don't Gmail you don't send any sensitive messages over your Gmail?
Fuck no.
Okay. Well,
Gmail is not end-to-end encrypted.
You're a very strange person then.
No, this is why people use WhatsApp or Signal, right? They do end-to-end encryption for a reason. Elon Musk, once upon a time, tweeted out, use Signal, and everybody got onto it. Remember this? This is, these things are dangerous, and anything that gets people off of Twitter is good. Because here's the truth about this. I am all for the accountability of the decisions that Twitter made to make America worse, which is, pushing people together and creating a mechanism in the user experience which specifically rewarded combat, and which is part of what has torn us apart and made everybody crazy and made us think that Twitter is real life. All those things are terrible and are much worse than, they took away Donald Trump's Twitter account. That's small potatoes compared to all the horrible things that Twitter unleashed on the world. Kill it with fire. Okay. We had the passing of the, let me get this right, the Protect Marriage Act earlier this week, correct?
I thought it was called the Respect for Marriage Act.
The Respect for Marriage Act, which was essentially a repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act.
Yep.
Because the way we name legislation is totally Orwellian. And anyway, Tim, you wrote a little bit about this. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, so people can just read it. But I thought, to me, the most interesting element of all this is I was reading my friend Sasha Issenberg's book, The Engagement, about kind of how the fight for gay marriage happened. And there was a section that I didn't know, which is that when Bill Clinton signed DOMA in '96, he did it at 12:50 a.m. He was still in his leather jacket and cowboy boots from a West Coast campaign trip. I took Air Force One back to D.C., signed it in the middle of the night. No cameras. There's no... you can't like go into the White House archives and find a picture of Bill Clinton signing the Defense of Marriage Act. So he did it in secret as a kind of a sign of his own and his own White House staff, which included many gay people's like shame over the fact that they were doing this. That bill like passed 85-14 in the Senate, so even more overwhelmingly than this bill did. So I just thought about, I was watching yesterday's event. first on TV, and then on every single homosexual in Washington's Instagram feed, who all, gave me the same picture of themselves, which is God bless them. God bless those gays. They deserve that picture. They worked for it. But so I got to see many pictures of it. And I find that like contrast to have been particularly poignant and interesting, which is that like the legal, this was pretty much a procedural legal move, right? Like nobody's marriages were really in threat in the short term. Like it was a protection of a hypothetical future threat. And so to me, like the most interesting thing about yesterday was just that like our cultural victory over the closet and over the fuckers who wanted to like make us feel ashamed about our marriages, and the fact that like Bill Clinton had to like sign this thing, furtively, away from eyes because he knew it was bad, even though he had an even bigger bipartisan majority. And Joe Biden, meanwhile, got to like do it like next to a gay Secretary of Transportation and next to a VP who like bucked Proposition 8 when she was Attorney General of California, and next to like I don't know 2,500 of my gay Instagram friends. Like that was nice. That's not that. I thought that was the meaningful part for me of yesterday.
Sarah,
so I appreciated that and enjoyed it.
Sarah, 71% of the country is in favor of same-sex marriage. Only 12 Republican senators voted for this. Of them, most of them are either retiring or they're the people who are on the outs with the party, like Romney and Murkowski. And there are still, like the Heritage Foundation is still against same-sex marriage and puts out reports about how support for it is actually quite shallow and people want to get rid of it. What does the Republican Party do with this? Because presumably some large chunk of their voters are in favor of same-sex marriage and some large chunk of their voters are not. Are they going to litigate this or just hope that it goes away?
They are not going to litigate this. No, sirree, Bob. This is actually, there's sort of a function. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it a lot. Which is one of the things we're watching happen in the Republican Party. That's interesting. 29% of of the people who don't support it. It actually sounds about like the 30% of like super committed hardcore, right? MAGAs, right? Even though Trump was sort of culturally moderate, like there's just this faction, and it is the faction that is murdering the Republican Party. So so there is this just happened, right? So part of the story of 2022 is that the base Republican voter, which is MAGA, but is also just sort of extreme overall. They are extreme on abortion. They're extreme anti-gay marriage, right? This is who Doug Mastriano was talking to. They're kind of big enough to control a lot of Republican primaries, right? And that's why Trump got his people in these swing states. But the gap between those people and the normies who vote in general elections is getting bigger and bigger for Republicans. It is why they're desperate for the fusion candidates. And it's why I think Ron DeSantis is playing a little bit of a dangerous game, because these normies just told us in 2022 that they do not like this extreme faction of the Republican Party, and they will reject it even when all the other factors are telling them they'd like to vote for a Republican. And so that gap has become, to me, one of the most fascinating elements of the Republican Party. And so on the marriage issue, look, there's a reason they went and did it in lame duck. And it's because nobody wanted to do this publicly and have a big public fight about it. I bet there's actually more Republican senators who are for it, but who were just like, all right, they got their 10. Like, I don't need to go fight this because it's primary bait is what it is, right? It is a thing that you can get hit on in a Republican primary, but like a perfectly good and safe place to be in a general. Same with being very accommodating on the issue of choice, right? Like, you sort of need to be like, yeah, I'm pro-life, but like, we need all these exceptions and all this other stuff, like good place for the general, but you might go harder in the primary. The problem is that made you unelectable in a general election for a bunch of these people.
But that
reminds me of made me think of Jeremy Corbyn and Labor. We need a Limey to write about how Labor went through what the Republican Party is doing right now, like that same description of what's happening with the MAGA faction.
Well, but Sarah, so you're talking about the normies not showing up for MAGAs. But what about the obverse of this, which is that how committed are the people who are against same-sex marriage and who want abortion outlawed from, conception, are they going to show up to vote for a normie candidate who isn't willing to take on those fights for them? And maybe the answer is yes, they just will. I mean, they're not going to switch over.
That was
the
Donald
difference is
Trump.
they won't cross over.
That was Donald Trump, right? Like, Donald Trump was a secular, thrice married, not particularly concerned with gay marriage. Everyone knew probably paid for abortions kind of guy. Yeah. And they voted for him because he had other assets to them.
That's DeWine. They voted for DeWine. They showed up for DeWine in Ohio.
20 points more than they did for J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
Your cheap dates.
Speaking of looking at numbers, before we leave, nobody's commented on my zip up. This is a collector's item.
So I did not know that Project Orca manufactured their own brand of wear. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that a fleece? A tech vest?
It's a fleece. It's a fleece quarter zip. Project Orca. This is a political collector's item. There was only, I don't know, I think probably a couple dozen made, and one of my friends that worked, I did not get one because I was not on Team Project Orca, but after Orca beached in 2012 very dramatically when it didn't work and the Romney campaign didn't have any data on election day. That's what, for people who don't know, that's what Project Orca was. It's what they called their big data team. We had no data on election day. And so after that, I
don't know what you're talking about it. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know this story?
No.
What?
Okay, just so the short is
famous.
So in 2012, the Romney campaign had something called Project Orca. It was supposed to be the big data response to the Obama political nerd. In 2008, there were all these articles. I'm going to mention Sasha Issenberg again, his other book, The Victory Lab, about the Obama data nerds. And so the Republicans were like, we need our own data nerds. And so we hired some people from Silicon Valley, and they created a little project. It was secretive. It's called Project Orca. It wasn't even revealed till like a month before the election. And then there was like all these interviews around it. We're like, oh, you guys didn't know. We've been working on this in secret. The Republicans are coming back to get them. And then on election day in Boston, Project Orca overheated, and so the data that was supposed to be coming in. The whole point was that at 3:00 we were going to know which precincts we need to get more people out at because all this data was going to come in via Project Orca, and then at 3:00 we were going to send everybody to the target areas to juice the vote by the 1% that Mitt Romney needed. That was the theory behind it. And so it was the people that were on the secret team got this one of these very nice fleece zip ups, and for years I wanted one. I saw that occasionally I'd see someone wear one at a Republican party. I knew that they existed. It was like my personal holy grail to get one. And finally, as part of a deal with a friend of mine, I made a trade. I made a trade of goods, not services. and before she moved,
what did you give up in response?
She gifted me the Project Orca Zippy, which is one of my prized possessions now.
What did you give up? Did you give up a piece of political memorabilia?
No, it's private. So it was a private exchange between two close friends.
Okay. So I was just wondering if you gave up some amazing piece of memorabilia yourself.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I got to tell you, when I saw you wearing that when we got on, I was like, I didn't know Tim was so into saving the whales. I didn't know that.
Thing.
I thought it was like a charity. Yeah. Even when you started explaining it, we were like, when the orca beached, I was like, when did this happen that they couldn't get the orca back in the ocean?
Yeah, 2012. That's memories.
Tim's been whale watching.
Okay, right. If we're just talking about things here, can we just go back to gay marriage for 1 second?
Sure.
Because just to Tim's point, I didn't get
short show, so we got plenty of time.
It's an incredibly long show, but go ahead.
It is. It's almost 59 seconds. Jeepers. Well, Tim's talking about all his lefty homo Instagram friends,
I gotta you can say that.
Yeah,
why do you always try to police the language Tim and I use for our own community?
Thank you.
Tim and I are allowed to.
They're not your community. You were forever telling me that gay men and lesbians are different communities.
No, yes, but broadly speaking,
we're rivals within the same community.
Yeah.
It's a key fact.
I am not responsible for what these people are saying on this show.
Okay, that's fine. I guarantee you, if we were talking, nobody would be. Whatever. I can't get into this with you. The point is, I was a little. So I used to be the head of the Log Cabin Republicans, the gay Republican group, the LGBT Republican group.
Not invited?
Well, no, I don't think I was invited. If I missed the invitation but this is not about, it's not about a personal invitation. But I do think we should not, like, the reason that 71% of all people believe in gay marriage is there was an enormous concerted effort in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, by the time I hit politics, like, we were focused on don't ask, don't tell repeal. We were basically trying to undo all of the things the Clinton administration had put in at a time when he needed to do it to sort of signal culturally that he was, for swing voters. And so, we were working on repealing of don't ask, don't tell, but like marriage was just like a glimmer in the eye. Like Rick Santorum was a big political figure, was making his bones all on gay marriage. And a whole bunch of groups, a bunch of conservative groups and a bunch of conservative and Republican gay people like worked really hard to win over that faction of Republican voters. And I think they should not, as disappointed as I have been in the Trump years around some of in the log cabin, my old group that I like very much, as disappointed as I've been, like a lot of those people did tons of work that I think isn't quite getting recognized in this moment. Like Cynthia Loomis from Wyoming, very culturally conservative, voted for this bill, and part of it is that she said she felt like it struck a good balance between the religious liberties and the respect for marriage for gay people. And I think that there have been a ton of groups doing really hard negotiations behind the scenes for decades around finding that right cultural balance. So I just think they should get. I'm just
Shelley
give a shout
Moore-Capito. I'd like to shout out Shelley Moore-Capito too. Voted for it. West Virginia, not an easy vote there. I will tell you. I'm sorry you didn't get an invite. You deserved one, and you should have.
Did you get one?
No. We're not going to talk about that. And if you're listening, I know we have White House friends who listen to this. Please, can you just nudge the social secretary? I think that your snub, I just want to give you a little insight, was more about your lesbianness than about your Republicanness, because the social secretary is a gay, and I was just monitoring my feed. If I was looking at there were some high impact lesbians and transgender folks there. People who are at HRC, things of this nature. But all of the low impact, like, whoa, how'd they get an invite? All happen to be vaguely handsome gay men. So I'm not impugning the social secretary, but I'm just saying maybe some of our friends at the White House, you can kind of let them know at the next gay holiday at the White House, maybe you could get included. I will say Joe Biden did mention, because Joe Biden is fucking good at this, he did mention Republicans explicitly. Though I was kind of surprised. Maybe they were there and I just didn't see it, but I did not see, like Tom Tillis or whoever was the Republican co-sponsor. I didn't see any of them there.
All right. Good show. Long show. Come and hang out with us January 21 at Seattle. It's going to be amazing. Go to thebulwark.com, sign up for all the newsletters, read the great pieces we've got, listen to the podcasts. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.